Okay, we're on. Hold on. No network connection. Cancel. No network. Yeah, here we are. I think we're live. Hi there. I'm just behind the camera, and the person you're seeing right now is a chap called Tony Kelly. And Tony, Tony, great to be here with you, mate. And we're just doing a technical check here before we actually kick off with our podcast, as well as our kind of live Facebook interview. We're going to be talking about a lot of things and this afternoon. And if someone watching could please just let us know that you can see us okay. Yes, maybe please. Just okay. I've got Philip Keeble and Julia Wimbush. Hi, Julia, is watching already. We've got 2 viewers so far, doing well. And if you could, hi, yeah, okay. So we've
just sorting out the tech, guys.
We're getting out there. We're sorting out the tech. Steve Hogan is now watching, and I'm just going to join Tony in front of the camera right now. That's Andy. Say hi, Andy. And what we're going to be doing now, you can see okay. Right, okay, they can see okay. So, right, so I'll just give a...
Come on, tech guys.
We're just doing a technical check. There's a lot going on here with us this afternoon, and you all know who I am, so I'm not going to introduce myself. And this is Tony Kelly.
Hi guys, Tony Kelly from Red Card Gambling Sport Project. Also author of Red Card, the book, which we'll touch upon later on. And yeah, just joining up with John today and hopefully give a good insight into our journeys.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And Tony has a very Tony's journey is more interesting than mine. So, Tony, if you've seen the promo that I did last week, it features myself and Tony chatting in it. Tony. In the promo itself, there's a fantastic goal which Tony scored against Liverpool.
I'm dining out on that all the time, by the way.
Yeah. I would be too. We're just lights going on and off here, so we thought we'd come on at this time just to kind of because we build it at 12 o'clock, but technical stuff going on here at the moment, and so I'm sure the lights have gone off, and hopefully that will. You can still see us, and I'm sure you can. And just while we're waiting for Andy, what's actually going to be happening is Andy, who you've just seen, will be doing a podcast. So there's 2 things going on here. There's the podcast, and then there's the Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So Andy will be asking us questions about our lives, addiction, recovery, red card, football, all that kind of thing. Yeah, the whole thing. And then Andy will opt out of the live Facebook, and then it'll just be myself and Tony will just carry on. So what went through your mind? Can you remember what went through your mind when you scored against Liverpool?
You know something, John, I get asked that question so many times. One of the things that makes it so special for me is not necessarily about me or the actual goal or the event. It's the messages that I get today. You know, on social media today. You know, loads of messages from guys that were there and they were 15, 16, 17 at the time, now grown men behind the goal. I've had funny messages about, I've got a broken nose or bruised legs, because obviously they went mental. I mean, we had 7,000 Stoke fans behind that goal, so it was a crazy mad night, and it's great to be able to give some good memories for those Stoke fans. But yeah, it's an amazing feeling.
What had happened? I've seen a bit of the YouTube coverage of that game. What was actually happening in the game at that point?
Well, we first leg League Cup, Anfield. We were 1-0 down, and then we were 2-1 down. And I came on 85th minute, so there's only 5 minutes to go. Funny enough, I nearly actually scored my first touch. I had a volley over the bar. And then there was 2 minutes to go, and amazingly, I had the opportunity to score at the Cop End in front of the Stoke fans against Bruce Grobbelaar, and it was amazing. And afterwards, obviously, it was pandemonium. We had a great celebration. We all went back to Stoke-on-Trent and our family and friends down, and we had a night out. It's a special memory for me, to be honest. Yeah. Can't beat days like that.
No, I'm sure you can't. And I'm going to ask you probably a daft question, but do you miss those days?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I can't deny that. I think being in professional football, I talk to young people today and parents, etc. I think there's so many little things that you miss when you give up football or your football career comes to an end. That's why there's so many, you know, ex-sports people and ex-footballers that, you know, miss that void in their life when they finish their sports careers or football careers. And I think the banter is one of the things that I miss. You know, the camaraderie with your teammates. You know, nights out, obviously. Just all those little things in the dressing room. You know, they're little things that you miss. The football side of it, one of the things that pictures in my mind is driving to the stadium on a Saturday afternoon. So we get there an hour and a half before kick-off. We drive to the stadium and then park your car and then get out and you're signing autographs. So the whole build-up to a match, I think that's one of the things that you miss, the whole build-up to a match. Obviously, you know, playing a match or playing professional football is every boyhood's dream, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's. I mean, I can't imagine just how incredible that must feel like. There's a list of players. There's, you know, we go into Phil Regis, Les Ferdinand, the list goes on, Ian Wright, you know, even to James Vardy, the list goes on and on and on in terms of, you know, players that have come out of semi-professional football to semi-professional. And it's something that I endorse with parents in terms of if you're a scholar, you're fortunate to get a scholar, which is basically 16 to 18, and you get released. You know, to some kids, you know, it happened to my nephew. To some kids, it's broken them. You know, as far as they're concerned, they're not going to be a professional footballer. They'll do whatever or go to the streets or whatever it is. But that's not the end by a long shot. You know, semi-professional football now is huge in the UK. It's absolutely huge. So you've just got to get into semi-professional football. Your local semi-professional club, for instance, if you're living in Enfield, my neck of the woods, you could play for Enfield Town or St Albans City, one of my old clubs. So, you know, there's always an opportunity to be a pro. It doesn't mean to say just because you've got released as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, you're not going to be a professional footballer. And that was the road I took. That actually happened to me because I did get my scholarship. Well, in them days it was called apprenticeship. So I was living in Coventry, plucked from, you know, local football in Coventry, and got my scholarship at Bristol City under Terry Cooper. Hold on a second. A lot of my friends on my Facebook, we're all gassy. So that's
not a nice word, Bristol City.
Those are bad words.
No, they're the bad words.
Let's skip that chapter. Let's skip that chapter.
Well, it gets better. But it actually gets better for those gassy. It gets better because there's a connection with Bristol Rovers. But my brother, older brother Errington Kelly, he played for Bristol Rovers. So there you go. He played for Bristol Rovers, and he actually got me down to Bristol City. I'd given him a scholarship, but unfortunately for me, whether this was warning signs or not in terms of what was gonna happen later in the years. But you know, I'll admit it now, I was a bit wild. You know, as a 16, 17-year-old. My talent was there. I became the youngest player to play for Bristol City, 16, 244 days. That lasted for a good 15 years. So the opportunity was there and the potential was there, and everybody thought, I'm going to be at Bristol City for years to come. But unfortunately, you know, my wild living, I mean, I was little things. I was going out nightclubbing with the senior pros and coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm living in lodgings. You know, you can't do that because the lodgings are connected to the football club. So that's all about the attitude and that. So they report back to the club and see how you're behaving in the lodgings, etc. So my report was, well, Tony's coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, sort that out. So. Didn't go down well. I suppose you have that mindset once you've tasted, you know, professional football at such a young age, at 16. You get that mindset of I've made it, but you're a long way from making it. So yeah, I was released at 17, even a year before my professional contract was due at 18. So yeah, and that was, and it's that point then where I say to people, right, I've been released, fair enough, but the one thing I will say for me, on a personal level, is that I did have the desire to be a professional footballer. You know, it wasn't going to break me. As far as I'm concerned, I was just, you know, going to go into non-league football, which I did. First club was Stratford Town, and then it was Neatonborough. Then moved to London. It was Dulwich Hamlet, Chesham. So I worked my way up to St Albans City, and like I said earlier, I got my opportunity. 21. Alan Ball, God bless him. He signed me from St Albans City and off to Stoke City, which was then second tier football, second division. So yeah, so it was a strange old route, but that's the norm these days. Players go through non-league football and get plucked from non-league football.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's incredible. Andy, are you ready with?
We're almost getting there, aren't we?
Yeah.
2 minutes, I think.
2 minutes, yeah. Just putting on
Bill and Ben over there, Bill and Ben.
Okay, we're just getting some technical stuff sorted out, so we'll do our best to keep it as entertaining as possible. I'm going to ask Tony a question, and then I'm going to walk away quickly to check to make sure our Facebook Live is still. Can you see it, Andy? It's still live.
Yeah, running live, lovely.
Yeah, live.
All good.
Okay, Tony, and this is a very important question, especially for all Bristol Rovers fans watching out there this afternoon. Tony, are there any particularly dark and seedy? Is there any dark and seedy gossip that you can share with us here regarding your nights out with Bristol City players? It's okay, that's not a serious question. However, if you do, feel free.
Yeah, I'm going to get sued in a minute.
Yeah, this is live, by the way.
I've got one or two names come to mind now, but no, you can't go there.
I've got the bleep either.
I'll tell you what, you can, once we come off air, you can tell me, and I promise I won't tell anyone else.
It's rivalry, man. Bristol City, Bristol Road is crazy.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I tell you what, in case you probably haven't gathered by now, I'm not from Bristol. I'm from Glasgow. We've got the old firm up there, and I think some of my Glasgow friends will be watching this afternoon. I'm going up there on Monday for 2 weeks. I've been up there in 12 years. Because I left Glasgow because of alcohol. But we'll come to that. And I thought that the old firm was one of the angriest derby around until I went to a Bristol derby. I've never seen anything like it.
See, I haven't been to Bristol derby.
No, really. Yeah. Oh, there was all sorts going on. There was horses were being punched, and corner flags were being pulled out and used as spears. Seriously, it's anyway.
So how's the connection? Where's the connection with you, Bristol Rovers then? What made you sort?
I met someone, and I was then introduced to Bristol Rovers.
Right.
And then I went to my first game in 2013. Went to a few games, but it was when the club was relegated. That I made a decision to follow the club the following season into non-league football.
Oh yeah, they went to the conference, didn't they?
They went to the conference, the Bannerman Conference, and I was there that day that the Rovers were relegated. And it was awful to see, and then I just stood there. And I've said this before, and I've written a couple of books about being a Gasset, and I wrote in one of the pages I wrote that when I saw that happen, when I was there at the ground, people crying and stuff like that. It was strange. It was the thought that kind of went into my head was, I knew what it was like to be relegated as a person. So it kind of touched me in a way by actually seeing people, by seeing a football club being relegated, and that kind of that all that upset surrounding that. And I thought, well, I know what they feel like. I know what this feels like because I felt it before when I lost everything due to alcohol. So I thought, well, I'm going to really follow the Gas next season into non-league, and it was the best season. It was one of the best seasons I've ever had.
Guys, are you ready to?
We're
ready to get going. Okay, then, right. Fair enough.
Here comes the boss man.
We'll have a quick swig of the drinks, and we'll get ourselves going on the podcast. So, right. Welcome to the Transform Your Wealth and Health podcast. We have a very special episode today, back from the Brink. Not only is it live, but we have two people to interview too, both of which want to talk about our mental health as they both are addicts in recovery. Former guest Tony Kelly, who was a professional footballer with Stoke City, Bristol City, Bury and Orient, and also a gambling addict that founded the Red Card Gambling Association charity. And John Thomson, who's been a journalist, broadcaster, filmmaker and author, and previously found himself homeless through his addiction to alcohol. So guys, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Andy.
No problem. John, can I turn to you first of all?
Sure.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your background and some of the issues and problems that you had in the past?
I was born in Glasgow, but I grew up in South Africa and Zimbabwe. So when I was 9, my family immigrated to South Africa. So I spent 18 years, really the formative years in my life was spent growing up there, South Africa and Zimbabwe. And with hindsight now, and what I've learned in my, I'll be 8 years sober next week. What I've learned in my 8 years is that I'm a really sensitive kind of guy. I'm a very creative kind of guy, but I'm also really sensitive.
Yeah.
So I grew up just a young lad growing up in a very angry, austere type of environment. You know, it was during apartheid. There was a lot going on. You know,
so why was that? Yeah.
So and there was a lot of violence around. You know, and you know, when I left South Africa at the age of 25, I can honestly say that was normal for me. That I'd been kind of conditioned to that way of thinking and what I'd seen and I'd witnessed a lot of violence as a teenager. Not in the home, but you know, like I'd witnessed murder and I'd witnessed extreme types of violence.
Yeah.
And that affected me. That did affect me. And also I lost my right leg below the knee in a really bad car accident when I was 20. And so when you combine all of this kind of early life trauma with someone who's very, very sensitive, it's not really surprising that, you know, that I would then develop a crutch or a way to cope.
Yeah.
And that coping mechanism for me was alcohol.
Yeah. Do you think you had an addictive nature?
I do have an addictive personality.
Yeah.
I think I'm similar. I think I'm similar. When I look back to little things, you know, I know on John's side, you know, addiction people, our specialists, counsellors, they talk about trauma and childhood trauma and things that have happened in the past. But when I think about little things such as, you know, and this sounds ridiculous really, but 10 years old, I used to play marbles at school. You know, marbles. I was absolutely crazy with marbles, and the feeling of winning. Yeah, and then you upgrade to ball bearings and colourful marbles, and I'll come home and from school cry my eyes out for mum. Have 10p bag of marbles in the morning. Couldn't go to school without my bag of marbles, and that feeling of winning and losing, whether or not you know that feeling manifested itself in terms of going forward into the later years about, you know, the feeling of winning and losing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really interesting how things can affect you later.
Yeah, could be related, and you just don't know. The mind's a wonderful thing, of course.
Yeah. No, I mean it's I can only kind of analyse it now because of what I know now. You know what I've learned, and but it took me to reach an awful place in my life to. You know, when I hit a rock bottom, I was in a homeless hostel in Ipswich, of all places, surrounded by empty vodka bottles, and I still didn't know what was wrong with me.
So did you lose the house or what you etc. to obviously end up in home?
Yeah. No, I mean, when I was up in Glasgow, I mean, I started working for Scottish Television in 1994, and I worked my way up from the bottom. I started off as an audience researcher, and then just moved my way up into researching politics and researching current affairs, and undercover researcher in current affairs, then into the newsroom as a production journalist, stroke reporter. I would do reports as well in the newsroom, then into sport, and then into football.
Scottish football,
yeah.
So you a good place then?
Yeah. I mean, I was I loved it. I loved my job. I loved it. It was you know, working in doing that job it wasn't a job for me. It was a way of life, because you had all that kind of camaraderie within the people within the team, you know, and we used to do everything together. Well, not everything, but we did most things together. But all what was running tandem to that was this. Because it's a progressive illness, I was drinking more and more.
That's interesting, because it's with the gambling. I say to people, it's a gradual thing. And you don't even realise it.
So this is the addictive nature we're talking about. So what about the people that, in your case, Tony, you like to gamble, but what about the people that, you know, sit at home and they gamble on the lottery and they watch the TV and they have the odd bet here and now? What about those people? Could they get sucked into gambling addiction?
Yeah, there's always that risk. That's what I say to people. You know, anyone that places a bet, whether it's the national, whether it's the lottery, whether it's scratch card, whatever it is, there's always that risk. And so, us guys, you know, the general public, we don't, you know, we don't get it unless you're in that profession of, you know, counselling or psychotherapy, etc. And we understand how our brains work. We won't understand why some people get addicted and why some people don't. But there are, you know, biological reasons why that happens. I mean, we've got just recently done a video regarding exactly that, how the brain works and you know, reward centres and brain cells and dopamine and all that stuff. So that's why you find some people will get addicted, some people won't.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, yesterday I had another previous guest on the show come over, and he's a fitness guy called Marvin Ambrosius. After we'd done a fitness session with Marvin here yesterday, we all felt a little bit high and a little bit good, and we were talking about it, and Marvin said that's the endorphins kicking in. So there we are. I mean, it's exactly the same kind of thing. The mind and the body and the brain all work in conjunction. Hence why on my podcast I do like to talk about the health and the wealth in conjunction with each other. And we spoke about this previous time.
That's right.
They really do work in tandem with each other.
Yeah.
And fitness is also, for me, mental health. Because you cannot do things at a very high level, at least just to function. You need decent mental health. So I'm glad you guys have come over to talk about this, because it needs talking about even more.
Yeah, well, in terms of mental health, it's huge. In terms of addiction, you know, I think more people within addiction fields, etc., are now realising that, you know, there's a massive issue connected with mental health and gambling addiction. You know, we do some work, obviously, you know, the work we do, we'll talk about that later, but you know, when we talk about, you know, suicide with the former gambling addicts, you know, we've got a few slides we do where a 26-year-old, for instance, jumps out of his balcony and killed himself because of his gambling addiction. So we know there's a strong link with mental health, which is why we talk a lot about that, and, you know, working a little bit with mind, etc. Yeah,
I think this is one of the things that I'm very interested in is the suicide thing, you know, because I mean, I've been doing live broadcasts on my own Facebook page for a number of months now, on different aspects of mental health, substance misuse, and recovery, and depression, anxiety, and suicide. I've tried to take my own life twice. You know, I don't.
That's interesting, John. I've always wondered when I talk to my, you know, therapists and counsellor, etc. I've always wondered what it takes to get to that point, to cross that line of no return. As far as you're concerned, there's no hope. That's the end as far as you're concerned. And I've suffered with, you know, depression, I've suffered with anxiety and sleepless nights and all the rest of it. But I never actually got to a point where I said to myself, "Oh, that's it." You know, and some people do, and that's fascinating.
I don't mind talking about it. I've talked about it. I've written about it. It's in there. You know, the first time was. The second time was when I hit my rock bottom that day in Ipswich, almost 8 years ago. I tried to throw myself out of a window. Well, I did throw myself out of a window, but I got stuck in the window.
How big were you in them days, John?
No, I hadn't eaten. I just got stuck in the window. But I mean, I was hanging out this window, and
if this wasn't serious, it'd be quite comical.
It's okay. It's okay, because when I do share about this story, people do chuckle, and I've shared about it in, you know, like AA and stuff like that, and it does get a bit of a laugh. But it was because when I was hanging out the window, I remember it was bizarre. I could see people walking in the street below, and I remember thinking, this is what the glass half full, half empty means. And I'd never understood what that meant up until that point, you know, that particular single moment in time.
How high was you up, John?
I was two floors up. I was high enough to do so. I just wanted it to stop. But the first time was that was Christmas Eve 2006.
But at the point when you're at the window, was there any fear that I'm going to drop this brains will be smashing the pavement, this and that, whatever? Was there any fear of what's actually going to happen in the next 2 seconds?
I wanted at the very least to be. I just wanted to be stopped, because I knew that I was hurting people. Why I was causing chaos with the amount that I was drinking. You know, I mean, if you think about it, I had a very successful career. I was married. I had a lovely home. I had lots of friends in Glasgow.
Tell us more about the career and what you was doing and how it spiraled to where it was, John.
Well, I was just I'd become so my tolerance for alcohol had become It was just unbelievable.
What was you drinking?
Well, I'd get up in the morning and I'd have I'd hidden vodka. Again, this is all in the book.
Yeah. You were talking about your book.
I'd replaced shampoo with vodka. So I had vodka in the shower. So I would wake up in the morning, and my then wife, it's awful that she didn't know what was going on.
I was going to say, so your wife wasn't aware of the extent of your drinking?
No, not. I did admit to it later on, but my ex-wife didn't have a clue, and I still feel awful about that. But I'd drink vodka in the morning in the shower, and then grab my briefcase, get dressed, walk into the studios at STV. I would go into Marks and Spencer's, get 2 small bottles of red wine, get to the office, go into the viewing room, have 2 small bottles of red wine, then sit down and then carry on and working into the pub at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, have maybe 2-3 pints or 3 glasses of red wine, back to work. Sometimes I would leave the office saying I would go for a sandwich, halfway through the afternoon, but I wouldn't. I'd go to the pub. I'd go to another pub where people didn't go to.
Right. It's funny, so you was going to the pub in your lunchtime, and when I finished football and work, I'll be in the bookies.
You'd be in the bookies. See how it's similarities there, you know? But yeah, and then I'd go to the pub after work, have maybe 3-4 pints, walk home, go into Marks and Spencer's, pick up tea, pick up 4 bottles of red wine, go into the toilets in Marks and Spencer's, down 1 bottle of red wine, and down it, and then 3 bottles of red wine in the bag, still there. Then get down to near where the house was, into an alley, down another bottle of red wine. I still have 2 bottles of red wine. Get into the house, hide 1, and 1 was for dinner for myself.
But when you got into the house, obviously there must have been an occasion when you got back to the missus that you sloshed.
No. Because of the progressive,
you're topping up.
I was just topping up. My tolerance had become. That's why whenever during the times when I would end up in detox, they couldn't give me enough Librium. I was climbing the walls. That's how bad it was.
I think Tony has said in the past that he didn't let his family know the extent of his problems either. Yeah,
I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I brought my book out, because obviously I've got a big family.
Yeah. Tell us about the book while
the book came, it's a funny story with the book, because 2013 I was talking to my sister, and 1 or 2 little snippets were coming out in the press about gambling addiction. 1 or 2 footballers, I remember Michael Chopra coming out, but not in a big way, they're just, little snippets, and gambling, with the FOBTs and this, that, and the other, promotions. So gambling was getting quite, big within society. So my sister said, you should try and put something to print. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, I can't write a book. Come on, you know what I mean? So she goes, no, just start writing something, and we can put something together. So I started writing one night, and this is with no ghostwriter, no laptop, no computer, no co-writer, no nothing. Just my trusted biro and A4 paper. And I just started writing. And the strange thing is, I look back now, I couldn't stop writing. I'll be at my ex's, I'll be at the door where the daughter was, I'll be elsewhere, writing through the night, hours on end, and then all of a sudden, 18 months later, I had this manuscript up here, and it was done.
It's a bit cathartic for you.
As far as therapeutic for me was, which is what people talk about now, because I couldn't stop writing. It was like getting a real load off my mind. Exposing it, publicly now, talking about it, and we say about talking about it. So that was a big help getting the book out. It was then we sent it to publishers, and it came out 2014.
Yeah, it's a good book, by the way.
Thank you.
No, I've said this before in the past.
Yeah, you have.
I will show you actually later on the pile of books I've got upstairs. Yeah. Brilliant books, no doubt, but there's about a dozen of them now, and they're up there, all of them with 4 to 5 pages read. And I said to Tony at the time, I'm either going to read this right the way through, or 4 or 5 pages, and it will go with the rest of them. Right? So I've got even more since then, Tony, with the 4 or 5 pages. And some of these people are very famous authors, so you managed to jump in front of them.
But I enjoyed it, and as I said, it gave all my family and friends and everybody a know, to realise where I've been, and that was important to me, because I think there's a lot of ignorance about gambling, a lot of lack of understanding. So it was good to get it out there to show people this is what can happen.
Yeah, sure. What about yourself, John?
I think what you've just said is spot on. I think there's a lot of I think people don't know this. There's still a lot to learn about addiction. you know, and up until a couple of months ago, I thought that there was more awareness and more tolerance around addiction, but I think the stigma is still massive. I think the stigma still is, because I've had lots of people message me who are struggling with the booze, and they're asking me for help because and they want it kept quiet. So that in itself tells me that the stigma remains, that people are still ashamed.
Yes,
they're still embarrassed to ask for help.
Excuse me, definitely.
And that is wrong, and that's costing lives.
Yeah.
There are people out there who are not asking for help because they're too ashamed.
Definitely. And
that's because there are still many people out there saying, well, why can't you stop?
Yeah.
You know, and they're also saying, well, there are a lot of people out there still who think that when someone asks for help, that it's a sign of weakness.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's not a sign of weakness at all.
No.
I think you're right when you touch on the shame and embarrassment, because that's what a lot of addicts feel. You know, that shame and embarrassment. If you're, particularly if you're working, you know, in certain fields, you know, football or high-end fields and all that, you know, you don't want to be seen as a weak person.
No.
You know?
You can imagine John working in the environment that he worked in, and you were going off and drinking, etc. If you'd been caught out, John, would they have sacked you?
I will say that Scottish television helped me immensely. They couldn't have been more supportive. They did their best to help me. I was signed off sick for a long time, and the help and support was there. But the thing is, they didn't have the experience to give me the help and support that I needed, because this was before I would even admit that I was an alcoholic. So that is a different kind of help and support that I needed, and I only got that when I ended up in rehab in 2010.
What do you think the general help is like out there for people?
I think it's I think from what I've heard, I know a lot of people who work within the field of recovery with regards to substance misuse. Funding has been massively cut, and they're struggling. And I think that I've heard, whether this is true or not, I've heard this from professionals that home detoxes are now the way forward for people who are struggling with particularly the booze. But the thing is, that doesn't have a proven record. Really, you know, a person has to be taken away, and then they have to be somewhere where it's safe, with the right experience around them, where they have to face themselves. You're not going to get that sitting at home.
No, I understand. Yeah.
On my side, with the help that's out there, so there's lots. What I've found in the last 4 years since being running Red Card Gambling Sport Project, what I've found is there's lots of treatment out there. You know, I've met with all the professionals in the gambling industry, lots of meetings, done a couple of workshops with treatment centres such as Gordon Media Association. So the treatment's out there, but where we're coming from is education awareness is not out there. There's more of that, which is why our brochure, Red Card Gambling Sport Project, Education, Awareness, Prevention, and that's what we're about. You know, so I think
a different angle.
Yeah, so there's a lot more work to be done. We'll continue to do it. We get help from the Big Lottery, who support us massively. The Big Lottery, I mean, they do different awards for organisations that have a social impact, support organisations. So they've supported us for the last 6 months. We got some funding 6 months ago. We'll get some more funding in the next few months, and then eventually the aim is with Red Card is to go full time. Probably 18 months time we'll go full time.
Who are you looking to educate?
Basically anybody and everybody, but in particular young adults. I mean, we do a lot of work with young adults. So at the moment we're going to schools, we're going to youth projects. We've just teamed up with an organisation, NCS. We've teamed up with the Hive in Scotland. So they run programmes for 16, 24-year-olds. So we're going to do workshops, and we've got an agreement with them at the moment. So there's lots of things going on in terms of agreements and contracts with working with youth and young people. Because at the end of the day, they're the next generation. So they need to be educated, and then parents as well, but we can go on to that later.
So just getting back to the book slightly.
Yes, sir.
Did you guys leave anything out that you wish you'd have put in? So, but by the way, John, your book, we've not mentioned the name of your book, or I haven't at least, is Seer, the Man Who Sees Tomorrow.
So what's some of the butchers?
It's like a gratuitous plug.
Why not? Yeah, so John, what does that mean?
The Man Who Sees Tomorrow.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Seer is an old name, or an old kind of medieval name for a clairvoyant.
Right.
So the book itself focuses on my 5 months when I was in rehab, so
Oh,
it's
right,
set.
okay.
It's set there.
Right.
Brilliant.
So it tells the story of me arriving and then how they helped me. It also looks back at my life and everything that happened. So when I talked about the trauma and life and growing up and things like that, my career in broadcasting and all of that, the drinking. So it tells the story of how I ended up in rehab, but it focuses on that time in 5 months.
So that's on Amazon, yeah?
That's on Amazon, yeah. And
get that.
but when I was in rehab, I was 3 months sober before I went into rehab because I had to be.
Yeah. Is that the way they make you?
No, my parents allowed me to stay with them, but only in the condition that that I didn't drink. If they had any inkling that I was doing something that I shouldn't be doing, I would then be back on the streets. So, but by that point, after that rock bottom day, you know, when I tried to throw myself out the window, I kind of surrendered to it. I didn't want it. I'd had enough.
You had enough, right.
I'd had enough. So I didn't have a drink for, I think it was 12 weeks, and then I went in, and I was a couple of weeks into rehab, and I was standing by myself when I was in rehab, and I didn't have much left. You know, there was nothing left. I didn't know where I was going to end up, anything like that, and then something for me anyway, something really incredible happened. I said 3 things to myself. I said, I mean, I'm not religious, but I do have faith. I do believe, and I pray, and I meditate. And I said 3 things to myself. I've always been that way. I said, I can't do this anymore. My way in the world doesn't work. I want to do it your way, and I really meant that from the heart. And as soon as I said that, that's when I felt something happened.
It's funny, there's stories like that about, you know, people's personal, you know, stories, something that's happened or something that's, you know, happened that's going to change the future or change the way they feel. I know you're aware of my faith, Andy. But I'll just touch upon that. What happened to me in 2010/11. I was working for Network Rail, really good job, etc. And we don't get visitors. We're in a remote part of the track, signalling trains, etc. And I had a visit on a Sunday afternoon. And as I said, we don't get visitors, so you surprised me. He was either going to be a regional manager or no one. And there was a guy at the door. Didn't recognise him. Let him in. He said he's the local chaplain for Network Rail. And I thought, well, I've been here 10 years and I've never met a local chaplain. So it was quite strange. And he came in and we sat down. And at this point, it was at the point when I was just splitting up with my ex-girlfriend of 20 odd years. My life was still a mess. I was just about to go bankrupt. So the whole lot, my life was a bit of a mess at that point. And we sat down and we talked. Now, going way back, you know, I've always been religious. I've always had faith, but it's not been strong. Yeah, I've never had that personal relationship with God in my life and my eyes. So we talked. He said a few scriptures, talked about my life and where I'm going, the future, etc. And then he wrote out a prayer, which at the time I didn't know what it was called. Obviously, I do now. It's called a salvation prayer. And I still have that prayer today. It's in the Bible at home. And when he wrote that, it wasn't a case of him leaving that day and me leaving work that day and, you know, all of a sudden everything's great and my life's brilliant and things have, you know, changed dramatically. It wasn't like that. It was a case that through faith and through him and through that conversation, it was meant to happen, and it was going to be a gradual thing. And then as time went on, again, it came to 3 years later where I was going to write the book, so that was meant to happen. How I wrote the book and spent those hours and then doing it, you know, again, meant to happen. I'm meant to be doing what I'm doing today. So it was a gradual thing. A year ago, my local church became one of our sponsors, and that's the local church I go to worship. And then I got baptised 8 months ago. So it was all a progression of where I'm meant to be, what's meant to happen in my life, and in my view, personal view again, it's God's way of putting me on the right path and then doing something positive from a negative.
Brilliant. Yeah, so hopefully somebody's watching today that needs a bit of help and wants to get themselves into recovery. What do you guys have to say to those people that are listening? But you know as well as I do, you know, you've got to hear things 1,000 times or maybe even once that clicks with you.
So, I mean, my book, Red Card, which is basically details my battle with gambling addiction throughout my life, throughout the football career. So it goes right through. And I say to people now, the one thing that I didn't do was basically ask for help. You know, I had family friends. I had lots of people taunt me and give me the warning signs and saying you better be careful with your gambling. But I never really took it in. It never really registered. And as an addict, you know, it's a compulsion. You can't stop. And that's, you have to ask for help. You have to get help as quickly as possible. I got help when it was too late. By that, I mean, I got my house repossessed, car repossessed, £192,000 bankruptcy if I allowed.
And
yeah,
you've said this before, Tony. You should have been on Easy Street by then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So going bankrupt was a big step because it wiped out my £192,000 debt. But then from then it's a question of right, you've got to move forward now. I had the counselling, which wasn't just about the gambling; it was about my life, reevaluating my life, looking to the future, looking for hope. So we talked about all these things. And fortunately for me, again, you know, through my faith, I think I've managed to get to a point now where I can help others, which is great. It's a great place to be. So the most important message for me is that you've got to ask for help, and don't be ashamed to ask for help. You know, because you've got to talk about it to someone. You know, if it's a family member, it's a friend, a work colleague, whoever it is. You know, talk to somebody and then get help. Because Red Card, we do our workshop on awareness workshops and presentations, but we also have a facility where they can talk freely to us, to one of the addiction team. We can refer them to treatment centres. So that's the way forward.
Okay. And what about yourself, John?
Again, it's asking for help. It really is asking for help, and I think when somebody asks for help, especially when generally I think people, when they're surrounded by people who again will see it as being a sign of weakness, to ask for help. That in itself tells me that when someone does ask for help, that is a true sign of real courage. Because when you do something despite knowing that you could be judged for it, you could be mocked for it, you could be, and it does happen. Let's not mess around here, you know.
John's right, because it's hard to actually come out of denial. You know, so I understand. I do understand why people can't talk about it.
I was going to push you guys on this because a lot of people who have issues that might be listening, this is going to just flow over them. So how do you get to that point that you say to them, look, wake yourself up, you know, you've got to do something now?
I can only use my own experience when it comes to this. I can't talk on behalf of anyone else. I can only speak from what I experienced. I had to be broken. I had to be broken.
Nasty,
physically, spiritually, mentally, before I would surrender and ask for help. Most people out there won't end up like that. So I had to be hurt before I was ready to actually ask for help. And it's not unusual for someone to have to end up on their knees before they actually ask for help. You see, because if someone's sitting at home right now and they're maybe having a bottle or 2 bottles of wine a night, and they know within themselves that this is not right. They know that they're dependent on it. They know that it's causing. See, alcohol. I'm not against alcohol. I have to say this.
Exactly. I would say the same.
I'm not anti-alcohol. Not at all. I go to football all the time. I'm surrounded by mates who drink. It doesn't bother me. I'm not anti it. And so, but what I will say is when it comes to the booze, you know, I mean, it's a lot of people will think that they're alcoholic, but in actual fact they're not. You can drink 2 bottles of wine a night, and if you can still get up in the morning, go to work, do a good job, function, and bad things don't happen. Alcoholism for me is when drinking and then bad things happen. That's what alcoholism is. So there is a line between that. But at the end of the day, and this may sound a bit harsh, but it's not meant to. But really, a person really has to want it.
You have to want it. That's our last slide on one of our presentations. You've got to want help. It's got to come from deep within, because with the gambling addiction, similar to alcohol, you know, there's only one way you're going to go. You're either going to end up in prison or you're going to end up 6 foot under. You know, eventually. You know, if you don't
get down the same path. It's a funny thing, but you're dead right, guys.
And the harsh. When I was in rehab, I'd only been there a couple of weeks, and there was a whole lot of us sitting in a room one day. And there must have been about 20 or 30 of us. And we were waiting for someone to come in and do a share. It was someone who would come in and, you know, talk about share stories about, you know, so someone from the outside. And before they came in, one of the counsellors said to us, right, I want each one of you to look to your left and then look to your right at the people on either side of you. And only one of you will make it with the people who are sitting next to you. So only 1 out of 3 will actually make it. So you have to decide whether or not you want it bad enough. Because what they did was they really hammered it home the facts and the stats surrounding relapse and death. And it's hard, and they had to be that way. They had to be that way. And I decided I'm not. That's not going to be me.
Well, that's what they're doing exactly right. It's got to be hard hitting. People have got to realise what really can happen. That's what we do in our workshops. And it's good. It's good for me in terms of I'm talking to people or young people already, and it's coming from someone who's been there. So that helps, and hopefully we get our message across. Because it's a nice place to be.
Okay, so getting towards the end of the show now, what drives you guys on? Because obviously you've had your problems in the past. You try not to look back and take it.
Yeah, you can't
look forward.
Yeah.
What's driving you forward?
I mean, for me personally, I want to make a positive out of a negative. I know where I've been. I know what I've lost in, but I also feel fortunate. So to me, money, material things, they can be replaced. Your life can't be. So the way I look at it is that I'm putting something back. I'm trying to help people, stop people from going down my pathway. So that's what drives me, and hopefully, Red Card organisation will grow and grow and grow. So that's what drives me on.
Okay, what about yourself, John?
Oh, there's I don't know, one thing. There's 3 things. First is my faith. I'm so grateful for that I found that in recovery. I want to help people. I want to use my own experience, because I've got a lot of experience, they aren't good experiences, but I can use them to help other people, that are struggling with similar experiences in the here and now. And also myself, and coming back to the title of the book, Seer. I did awaken to something. There was an ability which I believe we all have, which is a gift that we all can have. There's myself and another filmmaker are in the process now of about to make a film documentary about this kind of experience that people can have. So
you're right. A lot of people do have those spiritual experiences.
I mean, it was. After that experience that I had in rehab, when I kind of felt and heard something, it was, what we want to do is we will deliver due diligence. Is it a mental health problem? I will be analysed by a psychiatrist. We're looking at that at the moment, and hopefully I'm okay. But I think I am. But there's enough stuff written down throughout history to do with this kind of ability.
It's not new, is it? No.
This is not new stuff. This has been going on for a long time. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We need to deliver due diligence, and we will do that because we're both experienced. I come from a journalistic background, and Simon comes from a kind of producer, director, drama background, and so there's lots going on at the moment, and I just keep taking one step at a time. Just keep moving forward.
And you're going to do my next film, aren't you?
I'm going to do Tony's film.
Well done.
It's going to be. I tell you what, it's going to be a cracker.
What's it going to be about?
Yeah, we'll talk about it, but it's about my story, but basically what I've been through. Because I think I'm fortunate. As I said before, we're both fortunate. We're sitting here talking to you. We're doing this. So he's been close to death. I'm fortunate I never got to that point of taking my own life. So I think it's important that I continue to share my story, and the wider I can spread it, the better.
Okay. Well, on that point, can I be an extra in the background?
Possibly.
Waving "Hello, Mum," something like that in the background.
Yeah. We'll be going to a couple of football grounds.
Yeah, we're going to be in the crowd then at least. Okay. So this is a nice link, John. You'll appreciate this one. Seer.
Yeah.
That's the name of your book.
Yeah.
What's in the future for you?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a brilliant question.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that link? That was really journalistic, wasn't it?
Brilliant.
I think this is not me sitting on the fence. There's lots of things I could say that I hope for the future for myself. Yes, I do have premonitions. Yes, I do log them and keep them and show them to people. But that's not to do with me.
Yeah.
I try and keep it in the here and now. These days, I try and, if I can focus on doing the right thing today, then the right thing will happen tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things will follow. You do the right thing. You work hard. Things will follow.
I had a similar conversation with a guy the other day who sort of was doing some social media work, and he was just putting stuff out there and getting nowhere, let's be 100% honest. And then all of a sudden, like you say, guys, things tend to happen, don't they?
They will.
And one after the other. Now I've spoken to him recently, and he hasn't got enough time in the day with the work that he's picked up.
And he's doing it. He's doing it from his heart. He's doing it, for real.
There's absolutely no point in worrying about. There's no point in me worrying about what I think might happen in the future, because it's not going to work out that way. Because if I had any control, if I had any real control over what's going to happen to me in the future, then that would also apply to what happened to me in the past. Then that could have been able. I could have stopped things from happening, but these things happened, and they happened for a reason. So I kind of surrender myself to the fact that as long as I just, and it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. I was going to almost swore there. I'm really bad at it, because I'm just like everyone else. I'm just I worry about this. I want this. I want this. But I tend to find if I just kind of do what I can in today, then it will kind of work out.
Yeah. Okay. And I think just touching on something, Andy, regarding, because obviously John's been through alcoholism, I've been through gambling addiction. So in terms of the links between alcohol, drugs, and gambling, there is huge links. I mean, we're going to Nottingham next week to a rehab centre, and these guys and girls is drugs and alcohol.
Right.
But what they're saying to us is that through the programs that these guys are on, their clients are on, they've found that their drugs and substance misuse stems from gambling addiction.
Right.
So I think there is a big link between the whole cycle.
Oh yeah. No, I'm actually really glad you brought that up, because it's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. Because when I was in rehab, we were banned from going near like arcades and stuff like that. Banned from going to tattoo parlours, gyms.
What, tattoo parlours?
No.
What's that got to do with it?
No, it's because an addict head. I have one. I can become fixated on
different things.
Different things. I can also say as well that I'll just as an example, that's been driving me nuts.
That's
my book.
Your book,
since I started doing this. Because I just want to keep it like that so you can maybe see
I know what you're
it.
saying.
But I want it to be like that so it's perfectly aligned.
Oh my god.
Oh, right.
This is like an OCD type
it's
thing.
Very slight OCD.
I'm a little bit like that.
Get them books straight. Come on. Imagine them books like that.
I'm a perfectionist when it comes to organisation, things like that. I'm a real perfectionist. Everything has to be right, time, perfect. I'll send emails the day before something when I've been sending 5 previous I've sent those. You want for tomorrow? You want? I'm like that, but
I, on the other hand, I'm chaos.
You know what? There's no right or wrong, is there? Even some people where I've been doing these podcasts, some of the people that you presume they're running big companies, and their outward perception is that these guys are really organised and on the ball. Some of them are not as organised as you'd think, but a lot of the ones that are really busy, of course, they've got to have a little bit of chaos involved because they're trying to do so much. A little bit like us when we were setting up here, guys. A little bit of chaos going
Carnage,
on.
mate.
Carnage.
You're right. When you've got so much to do.
It's a lot on, so I wouldn't hold that against them. So how can people get hold of you, John and Tony, if they want to find out more about you?
So basically I'm on LinkedIn, Tony Kelly LinkedIn. The website for the organisation, which has all our contact details, which is Kelly's Red Card Consultancy.co.uk. So they contact me through the website, and obviously the books on Amazon, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can get hold of me on Facebook, I think. John Thomson. There's no P in the Thomson, and just send me a friend request.
On LinkedIn as well.
And I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. John Thomson, filmmaker. So I'm on different social media, Twitter as well, and Instagram. So I'm on, and I'm sure that there'll be a kind of pics on to accompany the kind of the podcast.
We'll do something like that. So that's it, guys. Thanks for coming, and I know you're going to talk on afterwards. You've got lots of other things that we're going to talk about and discuss on Facebook Live, etc. But for the podcast show, thank you very much.
Cheers, Andy.
Cheers, Andy. Mate. Thank you very much. Cool. So that's us finished. That's us finished with the podcast Stroke Live. Andy, are we still live?
We are very much still
Very
live.
much,
Yeah.
right,
We've got an
fun.
audience, John, too.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah. What I was going to say to you, John, is that with the alcoholism, yeah. So we touched on it then a little bit about the cycle of addiction, multiple addictions, etc. So was there anything in particular that you had apart from the alcoholism? Was there any gambling? Was there any drugs involved, or was it just mainly just the alcohol?
I've never been into gambling,
Right,
which is
good.
Yeah, it's never appealed to me. I would say not even drugs either. I tried cocaine twice, ecstasy a couple of times. That was in the 90s. But it was always the booze. It was the booze for me. It was the booze for me. Just one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was. I really, and a lot of people might think this is odd for a man to say this, but I mean, I really struggle with my self-worth. I don't feel worthy. But on the other hand, I'm too confident. I'm way too confident. Give me something to do, and I'm off. And which is great for what I do as a filmmaker. I'm creative. I'll go and get it done and all that kind of thing. You probably noticed me when I came in here. It's straight in. That's just the way I am.
Which is great.
I can't not do that. I can't not do that.
Yeah.
But if someone was to watch this now and send me a message later on and say, John, you and Tony were brilliant, I'd feel uncomfortable.
Would you?
I'd feel like,
why is that?
I don't deserve that.
Oh,
no, it's that self-worth thing again.
That self-worth thing is very, very low.
Yeah.
Very, very low. But the good thing is I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
So I know what it is now. See?
Yeah.
So I go, no, you'll be alright. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's that was a fantastic podcast.
You like
Brilliant.
that?
Yeah. I'm good at that, right? Yeah.
I try, I try. I'm an old hand now, I've been doing it for X amount of months. I'm imagining, John, I mean, the amount of people that you must have, professionals and that have gone through training and people that you've interviewed, etc. I know I'm off camera, by the way. Obviously, those guys are a level or two above me, but even so, you have to keep a structure to things, and it works a lot better if there's a structure and a flow to it. So I do try,
No, it's. I mean, this is a fantastic setup, and I mean, hopefully we'll do more of these, because you know what I did a live very quickly before I arrived here, and it was just to say to everyone, look, here we go, we'll be on in an hour. We're going to be talking about this and all sorts of other things. And really, a lot of the focus will be on people asking for help. It's okay to ask for help.
Of course, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And I've had a couple of guys contact me over the past couple of months. Now these lads I kind of know would have been not shy of throwing a couple of punches in the good old days of the 80s and 90s in terraces, you know, and outside the terraces. Okay, you know, pretty tough guys. And a couple of them have been in touch with me saying, look, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah,
I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, I've had similar things. People contact me on LinkedIn. I mean, someone contacted me the other day, 3 days ago, and this was friends that I've got obviously friends in Coventry where I'm from. And this was, I won't mention names, but it was a friend of a friend who contacted me and said, you know, so-and-so is struggling with this gambling, you know, it's really ruining him, you need to talk to him, please talk to him. So I called him, and when I spoke to him, it's this thing where we talk about the network around you, whether it's friends or whether it's family. You know, sometimes you do need support. You need someone to actually, you know, bang you in the head and say, right, this has got to be sorted. And so it was his friend that recommended him to me, and saying, because he doesn't want to see his mate, you know, ruin his life and all that. And I had a good chat on the phone. It's that big word that comes out constantly, that denial factor. You know, he can't seem to, you know, get himself to accept and acknowledge, you know, even to his friend.
How do you get around that?
Yeah, and I think I don't know what you think, John, but again, network helps, supportive family, because you got to remember, not everybody's got brothers and sisters and big families. Some people are on their own. And if you're on your own and you're isolated, I think it's more difficult. But at some point, you have, whether it's professional help, but you also got to have a bit of, you know, inner mental strength and courage to do it yourself, to really, really want it. You know, fortunately for me, I did eventually ask for help and got the help, but not everybody has got that capacity to, you know, actually, you know, go and tell friends, family, or the world or whatever. So it is difficult to actually come out of denial. But I say to people now, that's the biggest thing. You have to acknowledge you got a problem, you know, and then you go and get help. You know, so I don't know what you think, John.
Absolutely, I think denial is massive, and denial it costs lives without a doubt. And I think, you know, again, looking at my own experience, I was in denial for years.
Yeah, same here.
You know, and I just didn't want to. I didn't want to admit it. You could call me anything. Excuse me, call me anything you want. Seriously, call me anything you want, but don't call me an alcoholic. You know. So why was I thinking that? It's because I thought that if I just, you know, I thought I was going to be, you know, labelled, punished, laughed at, mocked, judged. You know, just all of these things, and that still does happen. Not to me. Maybe it does behind my back. I don't know, but I honestly won't swear. I don't care. I honestly don't care what people think about me. But that's what I've learned in recovery, and that's taken years. But that denial thing was once I found myself in a very safe place where I was surrounded by other people who were like me, and they were talking about how they felt, and they were talking about what they were struggling with. And as a man, I struggled with it to begin with. It took me weeks to open up, and I thought, I can't do this. I can't sit in a room with other guys and women, strangers, and tell them about stuff that's gone on for me. I couldn't. But then I just did it one day, and what happened was there was a chap in my group therapy. There was about 10 of us, and he then shared something. He'd been in rehab longer than me, and he was more used to talking about stuff.
Right.
And he then shared something which he hadn't shared before, and that was he had his mum had a stepdad, and he had a younger brother who was disabled, and his stepdad had targeted his younger brother to abuse him. And this chap who was sitting with us in the group counselling session said that he offered himself to this man. In return, he wouldn't touch his little brother who was disabled.
Right.
So when I heard him say that, it just blew me away. I'd never heard anything like it. But I thought, how brave is that to actually say that, you know? And I remember thinking, well, if you can share that kind of thing, but there's that kind of stuff that's happened to you, then I can share. So, and this is a big thing. It's when, you know, when I talk about stuff on Facebook Live about stuff that I've been through, done and experienced and all that kind of thing, then other people will say, actually, this guy's talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. You know? And it's funny, once you get the first, say for instance, like I do my talks and workshops on my story and that, and I was the same in 2013, 14, that I couldn't bring myself to go public. You know, it's one of the hardest things you can do. But I remember the first one I'd done was in Coventry. There's a friend, Angela, who runs a business gala evening every year. And she asked me, could you do 15 minutes just to, you know, share your story to the audience, 15 minutes? And I thought, shit myself, you know what I mean? that's what was going through my head, you know, because I wasn't quite ready. I wasn't ready to come fully out of it openly and publicly, but I thought, you know, fuck it, let's go and do it. So I did 15, 20 minutes on the story, but it was what got me, it was the reaction. It was the reaction of the people. You know, people coming up to me. I had a couple of ladies, you know, talking to me about their dad and finding betting slips in the bin and all sorts of things. So it was the impact, and it was the reaction I got. You know, compliments about, you know, you're a natural, etc. And I thought, you know what, you know, I need to do this more. I need to share my story. I need to get awareness and education out there and tell people what you've been through. Because I think, like you said, it's powerful and it helps. It helps because people can, you know, see you, you know, talking about what you've been through openly, honestly, then they're more inclined to say, you know what, I can do this, you know. And it'll open up for others.
Yeah, that, absolutely. Because up until, I mean, we all carry stuff around with us. You know, and we've done things, we've said things, we've thought things, we've, you know, and then when you kind of carry all this around with you, and you think that, well, I I'm not going to say you think.
Yeah.
I thought, because I don't know.
Go on.
You swore there, by the way, which is great.
Yeah,
No,
I'm still on the football field, mate.
That's okay.
That stays with me.
You've just given me permission to swear as well.
Yeah. Stays with me.
Excellent. And but carrying all this stuff around, I used to think that I was the only one in the world that had done things and thought things and been secretive about this and done this and thought this and all this kind of stuff. And then I came into recovery and I realised, hold on a second, everyone.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Everyone's
some crazy thoughts. I remember one time when it was loads of times where I've been rock bottom. Whether it's losing all my wages, whatever it was. I remember one time me and my brother we actually sat and discussed. And this is what I mean about some people can go over that line. Yeah. Fortunately for me, I didn't. But we sat and discussed and planned. How we're going to do a robbery. Yeah, we actually sat and talked about it. We talked about, the person, the staff, what time the shop opens. It was going to be built like what time it opens, who's going to be on. We'll go there 2 or 3 days and stake out, etc. Yeah, we were actually going to do a robbery, and that was going to get me out of jail, and that was going to clear my debts. But thank God, again, it wasn't meant to happen. There was another pathway for me, as far as I'm concerned. And so never went ahead with it. But it's the things that come in your head when you're desperate.
Yeah.
People do anything, and that's why there's so much crime related to gambling addiction.
Yeah. No, it's the whole head thing. I mean, my head falls off. There's a saying.
It falls off. What the head falls off?
That's what I'm saying. My head falls off. There's a saying in recovery, and it's my head falls off, or my head has fallen off. It basically just means that your head's
gone, mate.
It's gone. And that actually, I woke up this morning and my head had fallen off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But isn't it great? Taking all this aside, everything we're talking about, isn't it great to be able to sit here and laugh and joke about where we are now? That's an amazing feeling.
It certainly is, and it's there was a couple of months ago, and it's kind of getting back to the kind of suicide thing, and just talking about it. And I mean, I don't know. Would I be right in saying that suicide is probably, it's not the last taboo, but it's one of the biggest taboos. It's that whole thing about it's seen as a cowardly,
selfish act,
selfish and cowardly, and I've heard people say that. I've heard people who were close to me say that, and yet, how can we judge someone who's clearly unwell? And you have to be that unwell to actually want to.
You have to be. Definitely.
To end your life.
So nobody can know what's going on in your head.
No, not at all. Because we didn't kind of touch on it, but earlier on when you asked me about it, the first time that I thought I was a problem. I knew that I was the problem, and I was causing a lot of hurt to my family and friends, and I was in a really bad way, and I thought, actually, this makes sense. If I remove the problem, then there won't be a problem, and I was a problem, and that's the way that I was thinking.
And that's where the selfishness comes in terms. It's the same with gambling addiction. All the people, I fell out with friends, I've lost friends. Fortunately, my family we're very close, that supported me. But people do, fall out with their partners, etc. So you doing what you was, going to do, then you've got to think about who you're leaving behind. So that's where the selfish act comes in. We don't think about anyone else. We just think about ourselves. So I think that's dangerous.
I think there's still a lot. I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think and I've kind of seen that over the past couple of months. I went through a bit of a bad time a couple of months ago, and then I started kind of talking about it live, and
that helped you. Did it help you?
It helped me. It helped me. It helped me a lot because it helped me to kind of open up about stuff, and I was scared to do it at the time, but it has made me stronger. And it has also, this guy messaged me this morning on the way here, and he's 2 months sober now. He's 2 months sober now because he got in touch with me.
That's brilliant.
And I just gave him just a couple of simple suggestions, and he's probably watching now. And he's 2 months sober, and and I'm coming up for 8 years sober next week. But he sent me a message this morning saying, "That's incredible, 8 years! Wow, I can't even imagine what me getting there." But the thing is, I don't think he realizes that his 2 months for me is more important than than my 8 years.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning, when you're not that far away from it, it's a lot easier to slip back into it.
Yeah, that's all we talk about.
Easier.
We talk about the relapse.
It's a lot easier. So when someone gets a month, then they get 2 months, then they get 3 months, then they get 4 months. For me, that's real courage. That's real courage.
Yeah. I had a relapse about a year ago. When I talk about prevention tools, I talk about silly little things like, taking your debit card out with you, temptation, walking around bookies or whatever. I was meant to put this £5 on a football, the big match was on, and I ended up doing the wrong thing, having my card on me, and then thought, I'll put a little £5 in what they call the FOBTs, which is a lot of stuff we do work on, and I had a relapse. And so that was after, from 2013, being in a good place, and I had a relapse to that particular day. And so I talked to my addiction team, I talked to other people and professionals about relapse, because I never quite fully understand it, but about relapse, about it can happen any time, so you've got to put prevention tools in place, all the things that I changed with my life. So for instance, I haven't missed a credit card payment for 3 years, my mortgage for 3 years, AA, car insurance, whatever, excuse me, whatever it is, I haven't missed anything for 3 years, which to me is absolutely unbelievable, because I don't think I've ever made 2 pennies on a trot when I was on gambling. So all these things, salary, whatever, do on your payday, make sure your direct debits are done, priority debts, if you've got kids, look after the kids. So all these things you've got to put in place. But to me, obviously, I've had to go through, what I've been through to be able to get to this place right now. I can control everything and make sure everything's paid and make sure I use my money. And obviously, I had to fund Red Card to start with. So that was a massive thing for me, because it meant that, I've got spare money, but I'm not gambling with it. I'm putting it into something positive, into Red Card, until we got the funding. And I think one of the biggest tests for me on a personal level was we got our first £10,000 about September, and obviously I've got a team. I run a team for our Red Card team. They get paid if we go and do workshops. The addiction specialists get paid. There's travel expenses, there's materials, etc. So, and obviously we've got 3 directors and I'm the founder. So I feel so proud on a personal level that I've been given £10,000 off someone's money. I've got the money. I've got a responsibility now. People need paying, and I haven't gone into the bookies and blown it. So that's a massive step for me. Massive step for me. And then obviously in the future I'm going to have more money to be able to be responsible with. So it's important, that for me.
Earlier on we were talking about football. All the madness, the madness that takes place in the terraces, all the jumping up and down, all the kind of, I mean, I'm not saying I see it all the time, but I mean, there's very much. I suppose it's the same with any sport. These kind of physical contact sports. Football.
The hooliganism not big now.
Not the hooliganism, but what about that attitude? Do you think that attitude exists amongst supporters? That kind of that kind of drinking on the road, making a lot of noise, but not being able to kind of get real about kind of stuff that's going on for them. The real stuff in their lives, like kind of mental health and depression. And,
I think football has got a lot to transfer in terms of the drinking culture within football. Not saying all sports, but a lot of minority supporters do get tanked up before a match. So when they go into the football match, obviously they're pissed, and that can lead to all sorts of things. So there is a slight drinking culture to English football supporters. Without a shadow of a doubt, and particularly when they go abroad. It's strange how you have to, or some people have to, get tanked up to end up into a football match.
I don't know.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
But the whole mental health thing. We're talking about mental health. That's still got to be. That's still in its infancy. But in my experience, the number of people who've contacted me over the past couple of months, people are still scared to talk about it.
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. I think we've done a workshop with Mind, the mental health charity. I've done a talk to we had a guy leading it, and we talked with Mind and the people at Mind in Enfield and Harringay, and it is a massive thing where people, I know that they say it a lot within the press, within the media, etc. about people don't talk about it, and it's the same thing with the denial factor, with the addictions. We have this thing in the UK where people find it difficult to talk. I know. I'm not a practitioner and all that, and I understand that. It's very, very difficult to talk about personal, serious issues. but without talking, it can lead to, it can have a detrimental effect and can lead to all sorts of things. So talking is massive. I don't, with my story now, as you know, Andy, I don't stop talking about it, but I'm lucky. I've got to that point. It's, fair enough. It's easy for me now, but we have to get the message out. Like you say, mental health is massive, absolutely huge. There'll be people listening today, talking about mental health and how big it is, and they'll have family and friends, members that suffer from mental health. Within the football world, we know what's happened. Various people, latest player, which I've heard about, was Aaron Lennon, and that shocked me. Because you'd never in a million years think, and you'd always get this thrown back at you. Well, footballers, obviously I'm an ex-footballer, but footballers and sportsmen and people, in high status, fields, will always get it thrown back at on that. How can you be depressed, or how can you have mental health issues when you're earning 60, 70, 80, 90 grand a week? That's what we throw back. Then people, people don't get it. It's like you say, ignorance, lack of understanding. So that's going to continue, I think, until a lot more is done.
When it comes to, you've been there and done it. When it comes to, in your day, being in the dressing room, being driven to win and win and win, was there any scope at all to actually, for you to say, or for any player to say, Gaffer, I'm struggling today?
Yeah, that's a good point, because I played, I think, if I remember, roughly 197, I think, appearances in my 5 clubs: Cardiff, Stoke, Bury, Leyton Orient, Stoke City, Falkirk. That was a joke. Anyway, Scotland, Falkirk. Only for a month. A month's loan.
What year was that?
1998.
Oh, right.
Eamon Bannon.
1998.
Yeah, Eamon Bannon. So I finished, because I remember I finished Leyton Orient in '98, and I remember going on 78 season to Falkirk for a month. Andy Gray was there, the old Palace and Villa player.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I played roughly about 200 football league appearances, when realistically, in my 8-year career, that should have been doubled. And to this day, managers that I played under, whether it's Alan Ball or Lou Macari, whoever it is, they couldn't quite work out how one week I was out of this world, and the following week I'll be absolutely rubbish. I'll be in the team for 2 weeks, out of the team for 2 months. That's how it was. That was a pattern with me, and it happened at all the clubs I was at. But we talk about, I don't lay no blame anyone's door. We talk about managers and coaches and agents and chairmen and parents, about looking out for telltale signs and monitoring things. And you have a duty of care to, whether it's your players or whether it's your staff. And I think that back then, you've got to remember, back in the 90s, gambling was normal. I think Kieran Dyer recently bought a book out about the England 90-something and the gambling culture and that. And so gambling was normalised to, so much so that even on the coach, away games, we'd go to away games, and you'd have the car school at the back, and the gaffer would come down, come on, let me in. So it's like normal. No one really looks at it as an addiction or anything like that. So there was never any questions asked. I was never brought into the office and say, tell you, what's wrong with you? Last week you was brilliant. What's the matter with you?
Right.
And that was never asked me. So we have to look at that in terms of people in a position of authority. Well, like I said, whether it's managers, in particular in football today with agents. We can't just have agents. You'll have scrupulous agents out there. You have agents that are only interested in one thing, and then you'll have you will have some good agents that will have the welfare of their player. Because even more so now, you're going to get, you are getting more and more footballers, getting problem gambling, because they can sit in their hotel rooms with their apps. They don't have to be in a bookers, they don't have to be in a casino. So, it's a very, very, very dangerous thing. Very, very dangerous. And, like I said, a lot of people on the outside have to be looking at monitoring their people, monitoring their players, monitoring their children.
Well, I got I became friends with another former footballer. I won't name him because I haven't asked his permission to name him. I'm sure he'd be okay, but because I haven't asked his permission, so I won't. And he played at a high level, like yourself. And he was telling me, we met up in a couple of months ago, and he said that just that pushing to win, to be successful, and all of a sudden when his career stopped, he had a really good career, it stopped, and then next thing he's struggling, he's really struggling, and then depression kicks in.
Yeah,
because that that goal, excuse the pun, but that goal, that target, that push, and all of a sudden it stops.
Yeah, I think the FA and the PFA do a lot more work on that in terms of sportsmen finishing. Once you've been a footballer or whatever it is, a tennis player, whatever it is, and you're used to a certain lifestyle, you're used to surroundings and circles you're moving, etc., etc. Once you come to a brick wall and that stops, and all of a sudden you're not that person anymore. To a lot of people there is a void, and they have to fill that void with something else. Whatever that may be. I do a lot of research on footballers and ex-footballers, what they're doing now. And some of the research, some of the stuff that you see, you'd never in a million years think this person would be doing this. We have someone, a fireman in America, and this, that, the other, policeman. So, people, you have some that will stay in the game, some that, love football, dedicated to football, have the desire to do all their badges and stay in football. And then you'll have others that don't necessarily want to stay in football, but what are they going to do next? And I think they're the ones that struggle, for something else to give them that buzz, because you're not going to necessarily get that same buzz again, but you want to get something that's going to, make you happy basically going forward in the future. So I think a lot of ex-sportsmen do struggle with that void going forward.
I was going to say it must be very difficult to replace, but I would say it's impossible to replace, because you were talking earlier on about the ritual itself begins. You're on the bus, you're heading to a match, you're signing autographs, you're having photographs taken. You're into the ground, you're in the dressing room, you're getting changed. Then there's a team talk, then you're down the tunnel, then you're on the pitch, and then you hear the crowds. Then you're playing in 90 minutes, and then it's the same after the game.
Players' lounge, drinking, family and friends. Might not go on a night out.
And that buzz, that high from all of that. And that's a brain thing, isn't it? That's you then need something to replace.
Definitely. Because I know that addiction people talk about the dopamine, about like you say, a certain amount of dopamine in your brain, that excitement, that buzz. When you lose that, it can be difficult. Unfortunately for me, I was in a nightmare state anyway when I finished football, so nothing really mattered anyway. I didn't really care about anything because where I was. But to people that want to move on, a new future, they have to find something to replace what they had. It's a difficult thing to do.
Okay. Well,
but I do know the FA and PFA do stuff like that, life after football, something like that.
Okay. Well, because also, that's players, any supporters out there, and you're kind of struggling with something, then you know what to do. Just get in touch with myself. Just inbox me, and as usual, the anonymity is guaranteed. Your name, all of that's confidential. It doesn't go anywhere. No one else. And
same with me. Anyone struggles with gambling addiction, just contact us and we can talk confidentially. No names.
No, definitely. So what I'm going to do now is, this has obviously been on my live, it's live on my Facebook. So, but what I'll do is I'll then share it onto Tony's. And it will also be uploaded onto YouTube or Vimeo. I'll let you all know later on, and then we'll take it from there. But
tell them to get out and buy our books,
definitely. These are two incredible. What's your song? There you go. Incredible reads. You are life-changing reads. Life-changing reads.
Well, we can read my reviews on Amazon side, and it does take you from 9 years old. It's not just about the gambling addiction. It's also about trying to be a footballer, what it's like being a footballer, all the horror stories. There's some hilarious stories with stuff. So I know Andy's heard some of my stories as a footballer, and it has been a rollercoaster life. So it's a fun book as well.
Cool. And this is about me getting stuck in a window. Trying to, on that awful day. So, and there's a bit of kind of spiritual stuff going on in there. So if you're interested in clairvoyance and that kind of thing, so that's in there. So we'll do this again sometime.
Yes, John, mate, definitely. Definitely. A lot more to do.
I love that.
Brilliant, mate. Thanks a lot.
Also, thanks to Andy. Andy's
cheers, Andy.
And Dan's over there. Dan's the cameraman.
He's part of the crew. All Dan there.
Dan's over there. So that's it. And hope you enjoyed it.
All the best, people.
Cheers. Bye bye. Right.